All right. Shalom, shalom. Sure you can hear me. All right. All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kodash. I send double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. I send much peace, love, and salutations to you. I'm out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, and sincerity and truth. This is Brother Ariala. And on this lesson, man, I'm just going to keep it the title of how Terrence Howard said it. He did a sit down or podcast with Patrick Ben David. I've watched the whole thing. I found it fascinating. It just shows you how Jacob is the former of all things. This guy is an actor, but he is a self-taught physicist, chemist, and scientist in general. And I've watched the previous interviews that he's had on other shows, the one on Joe Rogan and one before that. Very, very interesting points. Talks about free energy, talks about the state of the universe, talks about all different types of stuff, man. Um, Very, very just fascinating individual. But at the end of this podcast, which in my opinion, I watched the whole 2 hours and 9 minutes. I enjoyed it because they bring on another physicist from NASA, and they're just going over all types of stuff, talking about just systems of the universe, talking about electrons, energy, and everything like that. And I'm interested in stuff like that. But at the end of this, uh, Patrick Ben David kind of shifts and goes back to Hollywood, and Terrence Howard says something very interesting. We know how Hollywood is. We know, all the left hand magic that they do in Hollywood. We know that they liken it to a lot of the groves and the stuff that we see in the scriptures. You read about in Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter, it talks about what comes along with idol worship. And Hollywood is at the forefront of, idol worship and magic. And what comes along with that is, sexual deviancy, which the Bible warns of consistently throughout the scriptures. So I'll play this clip that Terrence Howard basically goes over, and he shows you, he tells Patrick Ben David, like, you got to keep your man card, because with those rituals that they do comes a lot of sexual magic where men with men and women with women and all the things the scriptures say not to do, they do. Matter of fact, I'm going to read this scripture here. Matthew 16 and 26 says, what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? There's a lot of sellout behavior that happens in this, industry of acting and Hollywood and everything like that, where you lose your soul. And he says you don't come back from it. And we've seen it over and over and over again. And we're seeing even people who call themselves Israelites, they start to delve into this podcasting or entertainment world, and they want to go up there and they sell their soul, man. And the scriptures warn us of these things. The scriptures warn us of this type of behavior. It's a dark art, and people will have to understand that these left hand powers are real. Satan goes and he seeks the weak, man. And if you weaken your spirit, you'll succumb to this wickedness. You'll succumb to and give yourself over to these dark spirits. But let me play this, man.
Deal with life, you are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up.
Now, he's talking about these actors that are just fantastic actors. And he's talking about Heath Ledger. Everybody, commends him on his role as the Joker. And I remember that he was talking about how Jack Nicklaus he played Joker before, had told Heath Ledger, be careful of this role, because it's dark. And so, Terrence is saying, who knows what he did to get to that level? Because, eventually we know that he killed himself.
sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. But when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
Now, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. Like if a woman gives up her womanly right of being a mother and taking care of her family and do all those things, when you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from.
Boom. And the scriptures talk about this, man. It's an abomination. It's an abomination. You sell your soul out, man. I see the brother. Hey, shalom to all you out I'm on here and all you ladies too. GMS feet the flock put Sirach 10 and 9. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. Someone who's covetous, you want something that somebody else has. Right? You desire something in a wicked left-handed way. Right? That's a wicked thing. It says, for such and one set his own soul to sell, because while he liveth, he cast away his bowels. And that's what happens. And that's what's happening in these different industries. People, like Terrence Howard said, giving up their man card. And the scripture says don't do that. Leviticus 20 and 13, classic scripture, right? If a man also lie with mankind as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. All right. You gotta get up out of here if you're doing all of that. In our culture, that's wickedness, and we're not here to continue to promote that. People that have that mindset, the scripture says to do away with them. They got to go back to the spirit world. It's an abomination. It's very, very demonic, man. You even got certain Israelites like Alizé talking about, oh, I was just playing. No, man, that's a demon. That's a demon. Right? Deuteronomy 23 and 17 says, there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. We don't play with that, man. All right? We don't play with that stuff here in the nation of Israel. Okay? We don't do that type of stuff, man. That's left-handed magic and wickedness. Okay? Deuteronomy 22 and 5 says, the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all that do so are an abomination unto the Lord thy power. So you see, our people, men want to dress up like women and pretend like they women, thinking that it's cute, thinking that it's funny, and vice versa. The women trying to be men, and then there's a freaking epidemic of that amongst our people. Stud women wanting to pretend that they're men. That's left-handed energy. And just like Terrence Howard said, man, it's hard to come back from that. Or he said he's never seen it. He's never seen anyone come back that loses their man card. From that point forward, they're just through. They're finished. All right. And us being in this truth, we're like the last real men on earth. Really, we're protecting it. We're like the vanguard of protecting masculinity and manhood here. The men of the Lord. The rest of our people have been cucked out, so to speak. Right? Isaiah 3 and 8 says, for Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. You see? And our people do it in our music, in these movies, on TV shows, the comedians, even the politicians of our people that's amalgamated into this society. They're all fagged out. Verse 9 says, the show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. full-blown transformers. Our people at the forefront of this wickedness. Our men are like women, and our women are like men. That's why our nation is torn apart. It says, woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. And that's why 2/3 of our people are going to have to be absolutely burnt to a crisp on this side. We're going to have to start over from just a few, because their souls have been taken and on the side of wickedness. You know?
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there, because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card, no matter what.
Man, I mean, one of the things you're seeing went to a whole different place.
Sorry.
No, I get it.
And Patrick Ben David trying to act like he didn't guide it in that direction when he did. He's a great interviewer, but he be acting too. He knew exactly where this was going to go.
So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they...
Because when you open yourself up to that type of magic, you get consumed by demons, man. People think these things are just physical. No, they're spiritual. And now they're infested with demons. So what you think a guy... I ain't going to even I keep riding on this dude, but the high priest that's given himself over and opened himself up to these type of demons, them demons got you, man.
Did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that?
What profit is a man, like we just read? For what is a man profited in Matthew 16? For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? You get all these awards, you get all this, accolades and recognition, but you sold your soul out. It don't, you're empty. You're through.
If I lose my integrity, you got to go in as a principal. And what we were brought in here as men. We produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason, because the aggression is necessary. You don't trade that in, no matter what.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting.
Now listen to this. Now this is damning. This is damning. Puffy was sadistic, man. A person is sadistic when they're patient. They're really patient to get what they want. They have a sadistic mind.
Coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man, about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept.
That's why you have to stand up manfully in this world, man. And that's why we are set in this thing to put off the world. There's a lot of things you're gonna cut off because that's what it's gonna require for you to. They're gonna require for you to feminize yourself so you can get somewhere in this world. You see, and it's in all facets, man. It's not just Hollywood. It's in all areas and institutions. When to get up to them top levels, where you're the creme de la creme, so to speak, in that industry. This world is going to require that wickedness because this world has been given over to Satan. And just like Terrence is saying, you got to stand up and be a man. He said there's a difference between when a guy walks into a room and when a man walks into the room. And people feel that energy, man. People feel that energy. And sometimes you'll have a person that's demonic enough to step to you and you have to show them real quick what it is. But for the most part, people recognize that energy and they step away. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 says, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. Let me get this in the see what this says in the NLT. Interested to see what that says. Let's get that right. 1 Corinthians 6:9 in the NLT. Don't you recognize that those who do wrong will not inherit the kingdom of the Most High? Don't fool yourselves. Those who indulge in sexual sin, or who worship idols, or commit adultery, or are male prostitutes, or practice homosexuality. See? That's what they require in this society, man. Sexual magic and wickedness. It says, or are thieves, or greedy people, or drunkards, or abusive, or cheat people. None of these will inherit the kingdom of the Most High. Okay? Some of you were once like that, but you were cleansed, you were made holy, you were made right with the Most High by calling on the name of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach and by the Spirit of Yahweh. Okay? See that? So Terrence is right as he's breaking this thing down. You got to fight to maintain your man card in this thing. Don't give up your man card in this thing. Cutting corners. All right? Trying to come up some other way. Scripture says this is a straight gate, man. All right? The Most High has a certain way that we are supposed to conduct ourselves in this thing. We don't trade that thing for nothing. So, it was good that he said what he said, And I encourage brothers to go watch this whole thing. It's called They Stole My Patents. Terrence Howard rages on tech theft, science clash, and Marvel drama. Like I said, it's 2 hours, but it's a really good it's a really good sit down podcast. I enjoyed the whole thing, man. So I just wanted to touch on that. I felt like that was fascinating. I was listening to that yesterday, but Lord willing, y'all would edify with that. With that, I'm gonna say, call hello Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'Shem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah, and sincerely and true. Shalom.